Hey friends, what's good? Welcome to the squad this week. We talked about Ocean, OCEAN. It stands for openness, conscientiousness. E is extroversion, so like whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. A is agreeableness, and N is neuroticism. And they're just personality traits that we talked about and how they apply to goaltending. So if you didn't go through the values and value proposition statements from last week, let's start that. Let's make sure we do that. And this week we're just going to kind of be observing ourselves and how our personalities play out in practices and games and drylands. And again, the series that we're now, this is week number 2 that we're doing it. And the series is all about understanding ourselves and learning ourselves better. And because that's how we really optimize ourselves for performance and to become the best that we can be. We have to understand ourselves. We have to truly know ourselves. So anyway, all that aside, here's the squad recording. Hope you guys have great weeks, and I will see you soon. This is, and again, I'm going to send out the homework from last week again. If we don't already have them, let's make sure that we have a goalie notebook. Make sure you have a goalie notebook that you can use to write down some of these things that we talk about. Writing things down really helps us retain information and remind ourselves what we go through, because sometimes, honestly, we all forget, right? We kind of forget what happens in games when we move on to the next week. We kind of forget what happens and how to get back to being successful when we have rough days, right? So let's I'll send out that homework again, and it doesn't matter when we do it. Maybe you do it this week, maybe you do it next week. It doesn't really matter. It's just that we do it. Okay, we just want to make sure that we set a solid foundation for ourselves for the entire season. So, okay, we're going to do leadership review, kind of like normal. Again, I'm just putting these words in your heads, guys. We're going to talk about Ocean today. And kind of this whole series that we kicked off last week. Last week was obviously a weird squad because of Labor Day and the Labor Day weekend. But this whole series that we've kicked off is about learning about ourselves, how we tick, how we operate, understanding who we are, right? Because each of you is different from another. Each of you is different from the others. Nobody is, yeah, Cooper, go ahead, bud. Nobody is the same. We're all different people. We're all separate individuals. Even if you have brothers or sisters, you're not the same person as your brother or sister, even though you're related, right? So the whole idea about this series is that we're going to learn about ourselves so that throughout the year, we can kind of have something to get back to when things aren't quite going the way that we want them to. So today we're talking about Ocean. And Ocean is an acronym. An acronym meaning like O stands for something, C stands for something, E, A, N, yada, yada, yada. I'll show you guys that in a moment. So we're going to go through Ocean and understand ourselves. And then we're going to kind of talk about how Ocean applies to goaltending and kind of how I kind of think of it when I'm scouting, because I was scouting this morning. That's I went and scouted Minnesota high school hockey. Because they have, or at least the Elite League, they have some games going on already. And then we're going to look ahead, and I'm just going to kind of lay out what the next few squads are going to kind of look like. So again, these are words that I just want to keep hammering into us. These are things that we want to make sure that we bring to the table. We want to be humble, grounded. We want to be good learners. We want to lead with love in our hearts and kindness in our hearts. We want to be accountable, and we want to hold others accountable. We want to be honest, really honest and transparent, right? Like we're not talking behind people's backs. That's a great way to ruin a team, is to talk behind people's backs. It's a great way to ruin a team. We want to do things for the greater good. We want to lead with compassion and teamwork, responsibility. We want our teammates to trust us. And we also need to have good communication. So these are all words that we talked about already that I'm just going to continue to put in your heads. So I think they're really important. And they're things that as you guys go along beyond hockey, they're going to remain important. we'll keep talking about those. But the big 5 traits, you might have heard of this. Ethan, probably, of anyone, Ethan or Colin, maybe Jack, maybe if you've had a psychology class. I don't know, Ethan, have you had a psychology class yet in high school? Yeah, so are you familiar with this? Vaguely, maybe? Thumb up, thumb down, or yeah. So a little bit of familiarity. It's the ocean. These are 5 traits. So O is openness. C is conscientiousness. That's a big word. Look at that thing. Holy smokes. Good luck writing that down. Okay, I'll leave it up here for a sec so you can copy it. Conscientiousness. Conscientiousness. Extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. These are 5 traits that we can kind of use to describe people and describe each other and describe ourselves. Really, in the end, all we're trying to do is to learn ourselves and describe ourselves better. We're not trying to judge people. We're not trying to put people into boxes. We're not trying to tell people what they are or who they are. All we're trying to do is learn ourselves by understanding these 5 traits. We're just trying to learn ourselves and how we operate and how we work and how we think and how we're motivated using these 5 things. And we're going to do that again later with like Myers-Briggs and with Enneagram and with DISC. Like we'll talk about all those other things later too.
Josh.
Oh yeah, what's up? Yep.
What does neuroticism mean? I don't know what that means.
Yep, all good. We're going to get into each one. So I'm going to break down each one individually. So we'll talk about that all in a second. That's a great question. I mean, they're kind of weird words, right? They're words that we never really think about otherwise, right? So yeah, we'll get into each one here in a moment. The common theme is that we just want to know ourselves. And this is a quote that I threw up last week as well. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. We want to intricately know ourselves to become great goalies. So this is where Coop, I think it was you that asked about neuroticism. This is where I'll get into it. I'm just going to go through each one in order. Okay, so openness. Openness is our willingness. It's our willingness to experience new things and to try new things. As goalies, we need to be open to new ideas. We need to be open to new ideas, but we also need to be secure and confident in what we already know. Right? So there's a level of being open, but then we also kind of have to choose for ourselves. If you try everything that any coach ever told you, then it's hard to make your own game, right? But we do want to try new things. We do want to experience new things. That could be new techniques, new mindsets. Like meditation is something that I've been talking with my goalies about for like 3 years or so. And it takes a while for guys to kind of get the grasp, or not even get the grasp, but to see that there's value in it, right? That there's value in a positive mindset. Openness to other ways of stopping the puck or helping the team. Openness is also creativity and imagination and originality, and being uniquely you is openness, right? And so I just put in here like 2 examples. Jacques Plante was the first one to play the puck outside his net. And he also happened to be the first one to wear a mask, right? So like he was uniquely him, and he was open to trying new things and being a trailblazer, doing something that nobody's ever done before. Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur, like there's a whole class of goalies, Jay Shiger, who like really iconicized, I don't even know if that's a real word, but they really made the butterfly technique huge, right? Before them, really before Waugh and like that era of goaltenders, really saves were mostly made on their feet, right? But he was original to himself. He tried something new and he made it his own. So openness, let's just always think of it as try new things. And do you like trying new things or do you not like trying new things, right? It's all on a spectrum. So openness, people who are highly open love trying new things, eating new food, trying new techniques, thinking of different ideas, highly open. On the low end, low openness is I like things the way I like things. I don't want to change. I don't want to adjust. So there's obviously a middle ground that we need to find in there as goalies. Conscientiousness. Again, this is an interesting word. Conscientiousness. Conscientiousness. Really, an easier way to think of it is discipline or attention to detail. And I blow that up to then also say preparation and focus on the process, right? I think goalies, no matter what, no matter how you like to play, what your background is, where you play, how old you are, I believe that as goalies, we need to be highly, highly, highly conscientious. It's too hard of a position not to have a good brain and like a disciplined brain and a high degree of value on the process and preparing, right? It's just too hard. If you don't prepare, you won't succeed. And so that's what I break conscientiousness out to be. So that's discipline to go to bed at the right time so that you're rested for your game tomorrow. That's eating the right food. That's staying hydrated. That's doing all of your prep work during practice. That's doing extra dry land. That's doing all of these little things. That's doing your schoolwork, right? That allows you to like maybe play college hockey, right? Like we need to build our brains in other ways too. But conscientiousness is this discipline that I think like that's one of the biggest things that goalies. It's one of the biggest assets for goalies, right? Is discipline and attention to detail. If you look at anybody in the NHL, it took an incredible amount of discipline and attention to detail to get there, right? Not everyone innovates like Patrick Roy or Jacques Plante, right? So maybe openness doesn't need to be that high, but conscientiousness, attention to detail, preparation, discipline, those all need to be wicked high for us to be successful goalies. And it's also, I would say, the ability to stay focused, stay disciplined, surrounded by distraction, right? Which is games, right? When you have fans and people and bounces and plays and crazy things happening. Conscientiousness is discipline to stay focused when there's all these distractions floating around. Extroversion. I've seen this spelled with an A as well, so I don't know which one's right, but I just went with the O because it looks more like extrovert, right? And maybe we've heard of this one too, introvert, extrovert. Have we heard of that before? Oh, I'm naturally introverted. I'm a little bit more reserved, or I'm naturally extroverted. I like being a part of things, and so it can be summed up as desire for social interaction. And I think this is one that really, I don't know if it matters, right? Because I think that there's plenty of successful goalies that are really high extroverts, and there's also a lot of goalies that are really high introverts. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. And really anywhere in here, I don't think there's a right or wrong. I do think that some things, maybe with like conscientiousness and neuroticism, which we'll get into in a second, like to be a great goalie, it's helpful to be on one end or the other, right? But overall, there's no right or wrong here, right? So there's tons of good goalies who are introverts. There's tons of good goalies that are extroverts. It's just how much you're seeking social interaction. That's all extroversion is. But that one's, I would say, is right down the middle. Like probably not a deal breaker for anybody to play in the NHL, right? Or to play high levels of hockey at all. Agreeableness is basically how well you get along with everybody. Agreeableness is how kind you are. How much do you trust people and how much do they trust you? How much do you cooperate with your teammates? How good are you to others is basically what this one I think is. Being a part of the team, benefiting everybody, being a positive leader and bringing everybody together rather than like, I mean, we all see it, like it's tough when there's cliques, right? When you have little pockets of teammates that are really cool and tight with each other and then others are like, oh, screw you guys. And like there's tension, right? And that doesn't benefit the team. So agreeableness, I believe, is highly important, because as goalies, we are leaders of the team naturally. We need to bring everybody together. And agreeableness, I believe, is that, right? Cooperation, bringing trust in with each other. Okay, last one, N, neuroticism. Neurotic. If you've ever heard like, oh, they are highly neurotic, that would mean high temper, right? Or moody. Whereas low neurotic, you might think of like someone who's just like dead face, like maybe not dead face, but just straight face, like all the time, just no emotion, right? So you have highly emotional for high neuroticism and lowly emotional for low neuroticism. So you could sum it up as emotional stability, temper, insecurity, or security, right? Because that kind of plays in with each other. Someone who is really insecure. Oh, you could also say ego. Someone who's really insecure is going to have high neuroticism, because if something happens that doesn't go their way, then they're going to think about all the different ways that things could go wrong, rather than just doesn't matter, right? Like things are just going to happen. Bounces are going to happen. Teammates are going to make mistakes. I think it's a little more helpful to be low neurotic for goalies, low on the neuroticism for goalies, because things happen that are just outside our control, that we can't change, we can't adjust. And if we blow up and slam our stick and just can't control our emotions, that doesn't help us, and it doesn't help the team long term, right? And so low neuroticism, I say here the note, low neuroticism is handling emotions well, non-dramatically, highly neurotic, large temper, moody, think beating your stick over the crossbar, think chasing the ref down, right? Like that's highly neurotic, right? Yelling, screaming, like that's highly neurotic. Whereas low neuroticism is controlling your emotions, keeping things dialed in. Now, do I believe that we need to be competitive as goalies? 100%. So it's a spectrum, right? It's a spectrum for sure. We have to be, if we just have no emotion, then it's like, okay, well, you're really not trying. There is an emotional part to it, right? So I don't know if you can just put that all away, but it's a balance that we have to strike, right? And so I'll preface this next slide. It was just an idea. It's nothing solid, right? I'm not saying that you have to be like this to be a good goalie. I'm just thinking through, okay, when we're trying to build an elite goalie, what balance do we want to strike with all of these things? And that's what this is, okay? So you'll see here, I have conscientiousness at the highest, because I believe for us to become elite goalies, we need to have high degree of discipline, high degree of focus, high degree of preparation and planning and mastering our craft. I believe. That's just me, right? That makes the most sense to me. After that, then I think kind of agreeableness, we need to build our team, right? We need our teammates to like us, right? If our teammates don't like us, they're not going to back check hard, right? They're going to be like, oh, they got it, right? Like they're not going to put in all the effort that we do if they don't like us. Then after that, I kind of say openness. And remember, not everybody needs to be trailblazing, innovating goalies. We need to think about new ideas and pull from different sources, but we also need to be able to be our original selves, right? And so high degree of openness is I'm going to take everybody's feedback, everybody all the time, and then I'm just going to change my game to whatever they say it needs to be. Whereas low openness is I'm just going to do me. There has to be a balance in there, right? Where we're taking a lot from other people, but then we're also just playing ourselves, right? Extroversion, I put kind of low to mid. I mean, I didn't put a 2.5. I should have done like 2.5, because I don't think that one matters as much. You can be extroverted, you can be outgoing with your teammates, or you can be reserved, or maybe you're an ambivert, you're somewhere in the middle, right? So I don't think that one, I think that one sits like somewhere right in here, right? Because I don't think that has that much there, right? But neuroticism, I put lowest, because I think that we do want to have kind of low emotional threshold, right? So that we don't blow up. We don't get angry. We don't always wear our emotions on our sleeve, because things happen and we need to be able to get over that. And highly neurotic, it's hard to get over those hurdles, being high emotion, highly neurotic place, right? So again, these are just ideas, right? Ideas on ratings, right? Because we're thinking about a spectrum, right? Are you high openness or low openness, or high agreeableness or low agreeableness? There's a balance to it. And it's just a way of describing who we are and how we operate. There's no judgment in it, right? So, in addition to last week's homework, if you haven't done it, think about where your ocean attributes lie. Okay, so think about, all right, maybe you write down in your notebook, you write, oh, maybe you're highly open. You really like trying new things. You love trying new food. You love going to new places and seeing new things and trying different ways of playing goalie. So maybe you say 5. And then you think, oh, my discipline's pretty good normally, but like not all the time. Sometimes I don't really work that hard in practice. Sometimes I do. Like maybe that's more of like a 2 or a 3. And I stay up late playing Xbox and eating junk food. So yeah, maybe that's a 2 or 3. So right. And so then you go through each line, O, C, E, K. I'm an ambivert. I'm somewhere in the middle, right? And then you go A, agreeableness. Oh yeah, I'm pretty good at, like, normally like me. Maybe I'm a 4. And then neuroticism, maybe you're like, yeah, sometimes I let my emotions get the better of me. Like, I remember last practice, I shot that puck at that guy because he came and celebrated. And, you know, I didn't like that very much, so I shot a puck at him. Maybe I'm like a 4 neuroticism, right? Like, so just go through and think for yourself. I don't mind where we are on this, right? But I just want us to learn ourselves. Think for yourself over the next week, where am I on all of these attributes? Okay, where am I? Maybe if you want to, you don't have to. Again, you don't have to. The whole point of me bringing this up, though, is so that we get new ideas and thoughts, right? Maybe you do some extra research, right? Maybe you look at, okay, what are some other words to describe what high openness is, right? Or maybe I'm not quite sure on neuroticism yet. So let's research that a little bit more, right? And so you go into that. But looking ahead, we're going to talk about these kind of things over the next few weeks, and I think this stuff is fascinating. I love how I can describe myself and how my goalies can describe themselves. So some of the other things that we're going to be talking about, similar to Ocean, like we'll talk about Myers-Briggs a little bit, and DISC. We use DISC a lot with goalies, just because it's much more straightforward than Myers-Briggs, but we'll talk about both. And then the Enneagram as well, which is, I think is, really comprehensive. I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but it's all encompassing, right? It kind of gets the best of everything. So we're going to continue to learn about ourselves, because that's a big part of becoming elite, is understanding ourselves and how we tick. So final summary: get a journal or notebook, write things down. It's easier to remember. Even when you have practices or games, like let's say, okay, Ethan's season started. Let's say he has a game tonight. He plays unreal, out of his mind, just stopping everything, sharp feet, tracking well, sees everything. Okay, write down, okay, September, what is it, 13th? September 13th, played Creek and just dominated, right? Felt really good. This is what I did during the day that led to that, right? And then you have a record written down, what did I do to lead to this, right? And then when you get to a tough part of the season, which you will, we're all going to get to a part of the season where we suck. Everybody's going to suck, and that's okay. Then you can go back to when it was good, and you can remind yourself what was good. So write things down. It's easier to remember. You can reference it later. And then consider your ocean. What's high? What's low? Where do you want to adapt? There's no right or wrong answers at all. It can be wherever you are at, right? And like, you're not gonna, this isn't an assignment. Nobody's going to see this but you. So be honest, right? Be honest with yourself. So that's what I got, friends. I'm going to stop sharing. Boom. Do we have any questions? I guess Cooper, did I answer the neuroticism question?
Yeah, and then I have one more question.
Yeah, what's up?
So this year, we got like 4 or 5 new kids on our team.
Yep.
And it's like kind of like it's good to have more players on our team because we don't have a super big team.
Yep.
And then at the same time, like they're not like they came from a different background, so they like kind of are more braggy because they all came from the same team, and their team was just kind of that way, and their whole organization. And I'm really trying to like welcome them into the team, but I just feel like I want to know as much as I can to do it correctly, so I don't break the team.
Definitely. So braggy, when you say braggy, I kind of think of the word ego, right? And we all have egos at some level, right? Like we all have an ego that says, oh, I'm the boss, right? Like we all have that. So I think for you to welcome those teammates in the best way that you can, you have to put your ego away, right? So I would say that you put your ego away to the point of welcoming them with open arms, no matter where they're at, right? Because if you think, oh, these guys have a reputation of being braggy and like loud and selfish and whatever other words you want to use, then that's going to be what you look for, right? But if you put that away, you just say, these are my new teammates, and I'm going to love them for who they are, and I'm going to do my best for them and hope that they do their best for me too, and I'm going to show them that I care, then I think you'll have good reception, right? But if you try to change them, if you try to say that's not how we do it here, if you try to say that's not the right way, then what's going to happen? Their egos are going to get big. And they're going to be like, oh, Cooper doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Oh, Cooper tries to tell me what to do all the time, right? I say that because that's what I did, right? Like I remember being a part of teams where I was like, there was one year that 2 teams merged. And that was hard because it was like, oh, these kids kind of had their way and these kids kind of had their way. And so we had to figure out how to come together as a team, right? And in order to do that, we have to put down our own egos, right? Not that you can't be confident and prideful and like stoked about yourself. But when it comes to them, just remember, like if you're sitting in the locker room and they're all being like loud and chirping each other and bragging and talking all this big game, like you don't need to join that. Like you can just sit there and watch and listen and see what they do and meet every opportunity with, I want to be your friend. We're gonna do things to help each other, right? So did that answer your question? Is that helpful?
Yeah, thanks.
Yep, you got it. Any other questions?
Go.
You gotta go?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yep, you got it, bud.
Bye.
See ya. Any other questions, ideas, thoughts? No? Awesome. Well, hey, it was good to see you guys. I'm going to send out the recording, and then I'm also going to send out for next week like a scheduled poll. So we'll see if we can find a good time again for Sunday next week. So I'll see you in a week. Good to see you guys. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Yep, you got it. Bye, friends.
Thank you. Bye.